Well, good morning, everyone. Let's get started. So a warm welcome to all who have joined us this morning. My name is Sarah Caulfield and I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager here at INNOVATE. We've been overwhelmed by the response to our webinar series, and to date, we've looked at security, data and AI, business communication systems, and specifically our own system, INNOVATE Voice Grid. But now we're going to move in a different direction and to a partnership we have developed with the team at HPE. Just before we begin, we have just a few housekeeping mentions. As we are all working from home in this lovely level 5, we are at the mercy of our excellent broadband providers, which can let us down from time to time. Also, some of our homes have animals and kids roaming around and can decide to interrupt us at any time, so just please bear with us. I encourage you to submit any questions you have in the chat window throughout the webinar. We will address each question at the end, and a recording of today's webinar will be sent to you over the next 24 hours. So feel free to share it with any of your colleagues. Most of you know what we do here at INNOVATE, but just for those less familiar, we are a leading managed IT and cloud service provider. We provide proactive managed service solutions for our clients who are based throughout the island of Ireland and across a number of different sectors. We are cloud first, but not always cloud. And what I mean by this is we believe in the power of cloud and the benefit it brings to organizations, but we take the customer-centric approach. So working out what their limitations are, what they're looking to achieve, and we provide solutions that best fit their requirements. We package our solutions as a monthly operating expense for our clients, and this helps with capital expenditure upfront. We get to know your business and then give you the most cost-effective and efficient means to do your business. So on that note, I'm delighted to be joined by Matt Shore from HPE, who will explain exactly what HCI 2.0 is and how it can be a huge benefit to your business. So over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Sarah. Just bear with me whilst I share my screen. Is that coming through now, Sarah?
That's perfect, Matt. Thanks.
Perfect. Well, yeah, thank you everybody to join in today. So I'm Matt Shaw. I am the HCI Business Development Manager for Hewlett Packard Enterprise. I currently cover UK, Middle East and South Africa. Really looking after this value portfolio that we have within hyperconverged infrastructure. So based on the brief that I've had from the team at INNOVATE, I wanted to explain where we are today with current hyperconverged infrastructure. So we're going to have a look at the basics of what hyperconverged has delivered to our customers. We're then going to talk about this evolution that we believe that we're delivering from Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and then we're going to look at the actual product underneath. So hopefully it will be quite informative and you'll be able to take a lot away. Please feel free to ask questions. We will have a Q&A at the end of the session, but feel free to ask throughout. So I refer to this next section really around HCI 101, so the basics of what hyperconverged infrastructure came to market with around 7 years ago. And I like to do this with the lovely analogy of a t-shirt. So I recently went to buy a new t-shirt, which is a bit odd considering no one's allowed out of the house at the moment. But what I found is the t-shirt that I bought off a online retailer was slightly too small on the arms. So being the clever person my missus is, she ordered me the next size up. But what happened is the arms fit perfectly, but I introduced this entire new issue to the equation. My waist and my chest were completely not fit for purpose. So I ended up wearing what in essence was a tent. So please bear this analogy in mind. I've not gone crazy. This does actually bear some relevance to IT infrastructure. So when we talk about HCI and traditional HCI, so version 1, it was a great innovation for customers. So the promise that HCI delivered was all around productivity. So what we saw is our end customers were getting happy end users because they could scale their infrastructure, they could simply manage it, they could be really agile, they could be faster to market, so being able to create applications in an agile fashion, be able to deliver new services to their customers. So obviously these are great advantages that this flexible and simple approach to IT infrastructure delivered. But it also came to market with another promise, which was all around cost. So the assumption was that because you'd have these set building blocks of hyperconverged technology, that as you scale, as you grow, in theory, your costs would be reduced over time. And this is the conversation that we want to talk about today. Is we want to highlight how we can increase productivity, but also showcase how HCI 2.0 actually reduces costs compared to traditional HCI. So what I wanted to explain is the great advantages that HCI brought. It was simple to manage, simple to support, simple to scale, and simple to deploy. There's no denying that these are the basic features and functionalities that customers are craving, whether that's a hybrid cloud, a fully cloud-first strategy, or if you're still looking to do on-premise. This simplicity message is key to every customer. But what we've identified is it comes at a cost in this traditional world. So if you currently are using hyperconverged infrastructure, or you're looking to move to hyperconverged infrastructure, what you'll probably find in your environment, you have an imbalance of your current setup. So what we notice most often is customers have an imbalance of storage. Usually their environment's heavily weighted to storing a lot of data. Traditional HCI, you need to buy storage, CPU and memory in set building blocks. So as you design your architecture, you're adding more CPU, more memory to get to more storage. But what you're actually doing is underutilizing that physical CPU and memory. So if we go back to the t-shirt analogy, my storage or my arm length is currently undersized and I need to get to the next size of storage. My memory and CPU fit perfectly, but I need to buy the next t-shirt size up, which obviously comes with a massive expense, from support to the actual hardware to the licensing that you put on there, just to increase the storage capacity. So you have this imbalance. And this is where, as a business at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, we've seen this challenge often for customers. HCI is great if you have a very set mechanism in terms of your growth. If you know that you're going to grow in certain increments and your CPU, memory, and storage are all going to grow at that same rate, HCI is brilliant to deliver that. But what we've introduced is this disaggregated HCI, so DHCI, which is ultimately giving you this tailored solution. So this example here is just showing you an architecture. Currently, the customer has one server and some shared storage, and they turn to us one day in the world of disaggregated HCI and they say that they need more storage. So it's really simple in the world of disaggregated. We just add extra storage. The next day, they say that they want to introduce a new CRM. So we sell them a server with a bunch of CPU and a little bit of memory to cope with that new workload. That CRM, they turn to us maybe 6 months later and say they want to turn that into an in-memory database. So we just sell them a server with a lot of memory. So you get this really fine-tuned and granular architecture that you can really tailor to your current requirements, but it will also scale and grow as you need it. So if we go back to the t-shirt, you have this perfectly tailored, perfectly fit t-shirt, which has growth built into it, but you can also scale it as you need. So you get this really nice, finely tuned to your individual business solution. So if we go back to the original chart that I shared, you've got this productivity. So we know that we can give productivity. We know that we can be agile with the infrastructure. We know that we're going to have happy users because the performance is going to be there because we've scaled it as we need it. And we're also going to increase that time to value, increase that time to production. But we're not increasing the cost because we're not needing to oversize certain elements of the solution to deliver what you need. We can really drive that cost down. And with density of servers and density of storage, we know that we're achieving those tangible business outcomes for the customers that we're talking to. So that's kind of the challenge that we've seen in our customers. And the solution, I've already mentioned it, is DHCI, so disaggregated hyperconverged infrastructure. And we've nicknamed that HCI 2.0 because we really do think that it is the evolution that infrastructure needs. So what actually is DHCI? It's an intelligent platform. It scales as you need it, and it performs to business requirements. So it's really tuned to making sure that your business critical applications get the performance, get the availability that they need. The challenge that we overcome is we don't need to over provision. So you as a infrastructure owner, you're not over provisioning wasted resources. So if you think of the CPU and the memory chart that we referred to before, you're actually paying for stuff that isn't even or ever will get used. And this is truly the value proposition of DHCI. So it gives you that true flexibility. Next, we've also got the power of InfoSight. So if you've never come across HPE InfoSight, InfoSight is a proactive service that runs in our environment that identifies bottlenecks, it identifies support issues, and it will take care of all level 1 and 2 support issues. So for example, if you were to lose, if one of your hard disks was to fail, InfoSight would notify our support desk and a new hard disk would be delivered to your door and we'd get it replaced. So it's really about being proactive rather than reactive. So it's kind of having an extra engineer watching everything 24/7, which obviously is going to remove those poor performance issues. So traditional HCI, because of the architecture, you do get bottlenecks within the systems because you're using shared storage. All the servers need to access that storage, so you've got a lot of additional noise floating around. With DHCI, we remove those bottlenecks. We also have this focus on making things hyper simple. So all about doing things in a few clicks or less. If you think of the traditional world of traditional 3-tier architecture, you might be configuring a new array. You'd need to set that into VMware, and there's a lot of steps that takes. Whereas with this disaggregated approach, we can do it within a couple of clicks. So if you do need to create a new data store in VMware on your array, it'll do it within a graphical user interface, which is really simple and intuitive to use. And we also remove this inefficient scaling. So obviously we've highlighted the challenge around CPU, memory, and storage. We've removed that barrier completely. When I look at hyperconverged infrastructure, the baseline is the experience, and it's all about simplifying all those operations. So we talk about simple to deploy, 15 minutes from rack to app. So really getting a production ready, highly available, enterprise class solution ready in 15 minutes. And then simple to manage, being able to manage all your VMs, all of your infrastructure under the single viewpoint in VMware. So we integrate directly into VMware as a plugin. Simple to scale. So obviously you've seen the diagram, we can just add nodes, we can add resources as and when you need, and we do that through VMware. So if you need to add a new host, we've got a graphical user interface that you just add it, and it's a real simple process, and same with the storage. And simple to support. So I talked about the InfoSight experience. Obviously that's real-time monitoring your environment, looking for any performance bottlenecks, looking for any potential support cases or support issues. This is really the baseline that all hyperconverged infrastructure has to deliver, in my opinion. The way that we evolve as Hewlett-Packard Enterprise is we are always focused about giving that enterprise experience to the SMB and upwards. So we talk about always on availability. So we give guaranteed 6 nines availability with DHCI. So really giving you that peace of mind that the infrastructure is solid and always available. Next, we talk about sub-millisecond latency. If you're not a techie, latency just seems like an odd word. So for me, the way that I describe this is it's like having a Ferrari, but if you haven't got enough road, or if the road is congested, you're never going to be able to unleash the full throttle of the Ferrari. So within DHCI, we have the nimble world-class storage array, and being able to access the data on that storage array is down to latency, and we reduce that latency and we give the quickest response times in the market. We also talk about fault tolerance, so it's highly available by design. So we always have that approach to making sure that the system is fully redundant, whether that's drive failures or controllers within the array, or if that's singular server failures. So we always focus on being highly available. We've got built-in data protection with snapshots and obviously the replication functionality that you all probably come to demand. And we've also got integrated encryption. For me, we do have some real good stats against the leading HCI competitors. We know that we're 5 times more efficient, 10 times faster, and 5 times more reliable. And these are stats that we actually publish on our website. It's not just a marketing slide, which is nice. The next in the tree is, so we have kind of a 3-stage approach to what we think enhances our HCI. But this independent scale of compute and storage is really vital to making sure that you're getting your biggest bang for your buck. You're not over investing in resources that you literally are never going to use. We also have these features around hybrid cloud. So HPE started the conversation around hybrid cloud around 6 years ago. And we were one of the first vendors to say that the future was hybrid. And I think for me, working in HPE for the past 2 years, it's really great because you have some of the market leaders in public cloud really tipping their cap to our vision around hybrid IT. So you've got Amazon, they've just released Outpost, which is a hybrid solution. You've got Google with Google Anthos, and obviously you've got Microsoft with Azure Stack HCI. So I think that there's a big focus now around making sure that you've got the right mix of IT, whether that's a little bit of public cloud, a little bit of on-premise, and really creating a hybrid ecosystem. We also have that really good part around no over provisioning. We can burst out to public cloud where needed. We've got advanced data reduction capabilities with dedupe, with compression, and we offer that fully guaranteed with a letter if we can understand what your data is. But ultimately, we're efficiently scalable. So all about tailoring the end result to fit you. Not you fit the infrastructure, which is nice. The jewel in the crown, I talked about experience and user experience quite a bit. The jewel in the crown for DHCI for me is the nimble support process. So obviously we've got InfoSight as watching 24/7 your infrastructure, but we also have the nimble support desk, which are all 3rd-line engineers. So where we can't fix level 1 and 2 issues, it'll get escalated to a 3rd-line engineer. That 3rd-line engineer will own that support process from cradle to grave. And what do I mean by that? If it's a 3rd-party issue, that support engineer will liaise with the 3rd party and resolve it to your satisfaction. If it's an issue with the storage, they'll own that from day 1 and fix it within your SLAs, and same with the compute and the network elements, which really is giving that user experience that we streamline the support process. So you're not sat there waiting to get through to level 3 support. We're already automating the remedies for level 1 and 2. So from a user experience, from an IT administration perspective, you should get the benefits of that real streamlined process. And we have great customer satisfaction, 4.91 out of 5, which I think is great, and an average hold time of less than a minute. So real nice stats. What brings to life DHCI for me and HCI 2.0 is this slide here. So on the left-hand side, we have the market leader in hyperconverged. They provided a customer a quotation to refresh their infrastructure. And in order to do that, you needed this big list of kit, as you can see, CPU, memory, storage, and that's a hyperconverged solution. On the right-hand side, we proposed a DHCI solution. You can see just by the physical footprint, the difference in what the customer ended up buying. But ultimately, if this particular customer went down the traditional HCI route, they'd need 61% more rack space. So if you think of rack space, it's great if you own your own racks in your own data center, it's not too much of a chore. But if you're paying for that rack space, if you're paying for that power, that cooling, you're going to see massive benefits by tailoring your solution more to DHCI. Also, with traditional HCI, you need a lot more network ports to replicate that data across to the different nodes. to give you that data resilience. So you need a lot more network ports to actually give you the correct amount of throughput to make sure that you're doing that in a timely fashion. Obviously, this all needs to be 10 gig switching, and 10 gig networks are not inexpensive. They're quite costly things. So being able to remove 300% of that cost out of the overall solution is a real compelling message. But also, with the way that traditional HCI works, you need to replicate data to all the different nodes within your ecosystem to give you high availability. So you need more SSD in order to store that additional information. So you're actually buying SSD space that physically you're not actually using. You're just using it to do your replication of data. And when you combine the amount of hardware that you need, you also need to replicate that with software in terms of licensing. So this particular solution from the leading competition was 1,200% more expensive to license on VMware, which obviously it sounds a ridiculously and crazy number, but it is 100% true what we're seeing our customers see. But actually, this customer is actually getting less effective capacities, less storage to store their data and their business critical applications. On the right hand side, we have this DHCI solution, obviously less rack space, better utilization of that resource, power, cooling, more cost effective to license, but ultimately we're giving the customer more storage as well. So this, in a nutshell, is the value proposition of DHCI and what I'm experienced customers see. And we've got lots of referenceability at the moment, particularly in public sector, where probably budgets are the most constrained at the moment, and we're seeing great uptake with DHCI and the cost savings that we're showing those customers. That is a very short and snappy value proposition of what we believe we're delivering to customers across the globe. Happy to open to Q&A if that works, Sarah, if you didn't have anything else to add.
That was excellent, Matt. Thanks so much. Really insightful. Let me just check if there's any questions coming through now. All right.
I've just had one through.
Yeah, I see a question in there now. Have INNOVATE brought HCI to any of their customers as of yet in the Irish market?
I think the team at INNOVATE are probably best to answer that one. Michael, are you available?
Yep, of course. So yes, we have. We've done your, as you said, your traditional HCI 1.0 and also DHCI. So we have run a project over Q2 and 3 last year that delivered a DHCI to Wexford County Council. That, so the questions are, what led us to identify DHCI as the appropriate solution for them? And it's pretty much everything that you've covered. They have a significant storage weighting in terms of their resources. They have quite not an insignificant data center environment that had an awful lot of physical servers, that had an awful lot of separate and siloed storage. So we were able to identify that DHCI was the correct solution for them, pull it all together, reuse existing licensing that they had for VMware based on, say, your last slide, that it's far more efficient to be able to license the resource that you actually need as opposed to just to get the storage capacity that you want. And then we were able to integrate it with their existing Veeam backup solution as well. So they were able to get a massive return on investment for what they were looking for. So I suppose to call out some of the things that we did with them is they bought a unit that had, I think, 84 terabytes raw storage. So VMware had the availability, or the Nimble array itself had the availability for about 60 terabytes of usable. VMware sees that it has available storage, and currently, as of this morning, they're getting about a 4 times reduction in that storage. So what that means to them is they've got 80 terabytes of used space on the Nimble array, and it's sitting on a footprint on the device of about 20. So they're able to get a massive reduction, massive compression and deduplication of all their data, which, as I said, is continuing to grow. So they have a lot of geographical information. Everything that they're doing now on site is the guys on the roads and the vans have phones. They have to take pictures of the work sites before and afterwards, and all that data has to go somewhere. You know, being, as I said, a public sector, it's very much a case of cost reduction and, you know, limited budgets in terms of storage. And although a lot of companies, even ourselves, would say cloud is an obvious place to put storage like that, in some cases it's not. You know, so taking from the previous investments the customer has made and identifying the correct solution, you know, it ends up being, when it's so heavily weighted towards storage, that sometimes, like you said, an on-prem or total data center solution is correct, but more often than not, it's hybrid. So one of the other reasons why we identified it is that it has the possibility for those cloud volumes and for them to be able to reach into the cloud when the time comes for it, and they're not looking at replacing their entire infrastructure again. You know, so again, we put it in place to say it's sufficient now, but it also has ability and capabilities that are above and beyond what competitors were offering, as well as been able to, say, future-proof their IT infrastructure, as well as been able to line up, say, essentially a roadmap for their technology plan over the next 5 years. And this is the foundation of it.
That's really cool. I think you also raised quite an interesting point around servers as well. I think the real cool part around DHCI is if you currently have ProLiant servers, you can actually reutilize those servers within a DHCI environment as well. So we can completely cost optimize your current investment in ProLiant servers. So that's also a quite notable part when we're talking about TCO and ROI.
Yeah, and I think that was, you know, one of the other selling points of it is that, you know, they're HP ProLiant servers. You know, they are known, trusted. You know, they're not unique appliances or anything like that, or, you know, and it's tried and tested hardware. You know, so it gives people a lot of confidence to be able to stand over and say, you know, I'm happy to install those servers in my data center, because, you know, of their reliability. I mean, they had racks of other hardware, you know, older generations of DLs, you know, so it goes a long way to giving them the confidence in it. And then I suppose the biggest one for them was, you know, the operations team down there, they're familiar with VMware, they're familiar with the management of VMs, and we're not fundamentally changing that for them, we're just making it simpler. So that was, you know, that, and putting, as you said, the info sites layer on top of it, you know, gives them such a layer of visibility now to see what's actually happening, and all the recommendations and the proactive stuff that's going on, you know, really makes their life an awful lot easier.
We had any more questions, Sarah?
I don't think there's any more questions right now. I think I just want to say a huge thank you, Matt. That was really insightful, as I said earlier, from you regarding HCI 2.0. And as I also mentioned, a copy of this webinar will be sent out to you all shortly. I suppose the big thing is, if you do have any questions after the webinar, you know, you can contact us by emailing ask@innovate.ie, or you can call us on 01 2153 999. You know, a member of our team will be delighted to speak with you if you do have any queries. And then there's also information you can get on our website at www.innovate.ie. And thank you, Michael Redmond, also for that. That was great to know a customer experience with Innovate also. And I think that's it. So I hope you all have a lovely day, and we'll touch base again soon.
Thanks all.